Hey people, what's good? Mount Lethe Hellfire. Wanted to do a video today on installing this thing, the Zastava M70 Extended M-LOK handguard. You may also recognize it from one of the assembled M70 ZPAPs that Zastava sells. I believe the model number is 776239XR. XR being for extended rail, or maybe it's ER, extended range, right, for munitions nerds out there. Not that it gives you an extended range, but they sell this very long handguard that comes all the way up to the front sight post. And it also came with a Zukov S and the M70 full-length optics rail mount as well. Then they started to offer these independently. I don't know when. The long and short is that this thing is a white-labeled UTG Pro. UTG Pro makes a lot of AK stuff for AKM and Yugo pattern AKs. Now, does that mean that it's not quality? Well, since this thing is barely removed from the billet that it came from, you know, it's pretty sturdy. That means it's weighty. It's 1.7 pounds here at Eastern PA sea level, so maybe it's more or less, just a little bit for you, depending on where you're at. And it's a bit pricey. As of now, when I'm recording this, August 4th, I think, 2024, it's 5 cents shy of 220 bucks. So it's like $219.95 on Zastava Arms USA website. They will ship it to you, you know, decently quick. I ordered this, I don't know, a while ago, actually. I don't think it was 220. It was a little bit less than that when I got it. But I could be misremembering, or it could have been a sale. But, you know, it's decently pricey for what it is. Now, competitive options. You have JMAC Customs. They have their MMS series. They sell a 10.64 inch, very precise, bottom handguard, just a little bit under the total price of this. So I think it's like 200 bucks. I'll flip up the specifications and the price up on the screen in post. And then you also have the Texas Weapon Systems, the OGs who make the Texas Dogleg. For their IW or IK 100 series of weapons, they also have a handguard that they sell for the Yugo. It's 350 bucks. Weight-wise, I think you'll save a couple ounces with them regarding this, because it doesn't come out the full length. Definitely not the Texas Weapon Systems. And I believe that the JMAC only is a rail for the gas tube. A little bit pricier, but hey, for some reason you're on foot patrolling, doing several kilometer movements a day with M70 ZPAP, and you put all this stuff on it and you want to save a couple ounces while keeping, you know, kind of that more modern AK-12, AK-19 look, maybe look into those guys. Or if you don't want the white labeled stuff, you don't want the Zastava Arms logo or whatnot, you don't want to paint over it, other places to look. And I'm sure there's other Yugo specific handguards out there. I know Zastava also sells UTG Pro white labeled stuff that's more like a tri-rail, kind of like the old ACR style on the bottom rail that doesn't come all the way out. It only comes out to, you know, pretty much as long as the standard wooden handguard is, with either a matching top rail for a gas tube, or you could go and get a cheese grater as well, or just keep it wood for kind of a hybrid sort of look. Now, the reason why there aren't a lot of options for these, you probably already know this if you're watching the video, but the M70 Zastava, the ZPAP, not the real M70, the ZPAP is based off of the real M70, and that's what's known as the Yugo pattern. Now, the modern Yugo pattern is essentially a RPK. Now, that doesn't mean that it fills the role of an RPK, though I guess you could if you put a drum and a bipod on it, but it uses RPK parts, right? It didn't start that way. The M70 was developed from the early to late 60s, at a time where the former Soviet Republic of Yugoslavia didn't have the best terms with Mother Russia, for various reasons that happened geopolitically over 20 years that I don't want to get into right now, because this video will be very long and you don't want to hear me yap. So back in Yugoslavia, a couple Yugoslavians were sitting around and be like, hey, we got a bunch of Type 3 AKs, the milled AKs, the OG AK, and we'll reverse engineer those. So the original M70 was a milled gun. It was not at all like the like the Type 3 AK. They had even different dimensions in it because they had a specific way of getting the barrel into the trunnion. They had different journals, obviously, for things like the gas tube and the front sight post and the front gas block and the rear sight block, right? Eventually, I believe either the Block 1, the Bravo 1, or the Block 2, the Bravo 2 modification, they went to a stamped And that was because the RPK was more accessible. The RPK first started getting issued to the Russians in 1961. And by the time the Block 1 or the Block 2 mod, or not mod, but version of the M70 was out, they had more access, you know, on secondary market or maybe directly from Russia, I'm not really sure, to that. And then dimensionally, their milled guns were similar enough that it's like, hey, we could use RPK parts. So you get that 1.5 millimeter receiver and that, you know, heavier RPK trunnion. It simplified their manufacturing. They stuck with it. They built it this way, again, to match that milled gun, but they built that heavy duty milled gun because it was their doctrine, and Eastern doctrine a lot, to use rifle shot grenades, which used a spigot and wingnut sort of design that kind of looked like the M70 or the M1951. And they used a VKTM. I'm not even going to try to, you know, say the Serbian words for that, what it actually stands for, but it was essentially, you know, a device that went on the front of the rifle. They would stick the grenade with the firing assembly over the top of it, load a specific cartridge that was like 2.2 grams, not grains, of propellant inside of it. I don't know if it's single base, double base, or whatnot for you to recreate that. I wouldn't recommend it. And then they would shoot various projectiles, anti-personnel, anti-tank, dual purpose, marking, and whatnot. Eventually they got away from that, and then that's why you have the side rails and the different designs. I digress. It's virtually similar to an AKM or a Type 3 AK. However, it's distinct enough that the Connecticut assault weapons ban actually doesn't apply to them because it's not the same as like the actual named AK or the variants like Saiga and Vep or Molot because of the parts differential. So there's that. Now, as far as installation, it's going to come in a regular old box with this hardware, and we'll, you know, cut across to that video to show the installation. You need to remove the top handguard off of the gas tube, which is pretty easy. And then you just need to, you know, move the retainer for the front of the handguard and then kind of gently hammer it out and then pull it out with the retainer clip from the receiver. And that's all you need to do. To get this boy out, you could actually put a 3/4 wrench on this, which I will demonstrate now. Right, and just get a overhand grip and, you know, twist that boy. If you lack the grip strength, put it in a freaking vise or have your wife's boyfriend do it for you. No big deal. The way that this installed is pretty easy. Once you have your bottom and top pieces of wood or whatever other handguards are installed there, you want to return the handguard retaining clip back to its, you know, neutral position, I guess, whatever its normal position, have it locked down. It doesn't have any bearing on actually retaining this. You just need to have it out of the way because it is machined out specifically, hopefully that's in focus, to fit around that. And then obviously you want to line up this big cutout with the cutout over here. The way this mounts is that the bottom of this handguard will be flush with the bottom of your receiver. There's no part that actually sticks in there or whatnot. It's just going to kind of hug along the sides with these little cutouts over here as so. So you just want to get this lined up more or less correctly and then press upwards until it's on and mounted in its final position. And then you can tap. All right, back over there and over here. And again, that actually little cutout that's on the bottom of this will not be flush. It'll be just underneath, but the little rear ears of this, if you would, should be just about flush with the bottom of that receiver. Not exactly. If you can't get this on, you're noticing that it's contacting this receiver flip. If you want to, without having to call Zastava's customer service, you could probably bend this back, Dremel this thing, or just freaking hoss this on here with a dead blow hammer, or, you know, just call customer service, right? That's what they're there for. Let them know what you were doing and whatnot. Try not to damage this thing. So maybe they give it back to UTG or whatever. Or maybe they just put in a scrap bin. Who knows? So once that's in there, inside of your small bag, you're going to have 2 sets of wrenches, a big wrench and a small wrench. You're going to have 4 of these little screws and then 2 of these longer screws and this little clamp-like device taken apart. Why they did this in 3 parts, I don't really know. So the small wrench is for the long screws and the big wrench is for the little screws. There are a total of 8 on each side screw holes. These at the front part and these at the rearmost part. These are for these smaller screws for the top handguard. And then you have countersinks in either direction, one going this way and one coming this way. I'm trying not to get my arm in freaking front of the camera. That will go through and cross bolt this. Now this is where another detraction of the extended M-LOK handguard comes from. Essentially this just acts as a freaking heat shield, or heat sink rather, and it's going to radiate heat throughout this, but it's aluminum, so it shouldn't heat it as much. But hey, if you're going to be shooting it suppressed like I am, and shooting it a lot, shooting it a match, it's going to get hot. So there's no instructions that actually come with this, which is probably why you're watching this video. I don't know the torque values, but I assume that the wrench will fail before the bolts will fail, hopefully. So maybe don't toss the shit out of it. Now the way this goes in is pretty easily. The clip just sits in this cutout portion right here. You probably can't see it because of the angle. This part faces upwards, right? Because that has the path for the screws. These have a little tab that match the cutout inside of that clamp. But at the same token, they're also rounded to match the internal diameter of the bottom handguard. And you will add them here as so. Pretty simple. I would just go finger tight on one side, and remember, they go where the countersinks go. At the 4, you get this thing tight. Maybe fully assemble it. I've already fully assembled and disassembled this to make sure that everything fits. Get a little bit of, or a lot of Loctite on there. Oops, I'll wipe that off, maybe. And then same thing on this other side. This is about the time when you want to start it, and let's see if we could just do a little bit of Loctite. A little bit of Loctite? Okay, a lot of Loctite, whatever. We're doing a lot of Loctite. Once that's in there, maybe wipe down the excess, right? Here, let's absorb it in the magic Q-tip. No matter. Now, this thing's definitely not going to come off ever, right? That's what Loctite does. It locks it down forever. No, it does not. But whatever, good enough. Get a little hand tighten here, or get it all the way down tight here, all the way down tight over here. And then switch it to this part, to sport mode of the key. That's what this is called scientifically. And then get some more torque on this boy. That wasn't the gun, that was just the vise. And that's nice and tight there. A little squeezing, clamping action. And, you know, this might have some wobble in the front, obviously, because it's only fixed here, but that's it. Now to adjust the rest of it, you'll reinstall your gas tube. All right, pretty easy, nothing new. Get that on there, clip it in, and then add a lot of Loctite or a little bit of Loctite, whatever you prefer, onto these screws. Remember, we're using the big wrench as well. Now the orientation of this scoop part comes towards the front, and there's a little bit of a cutout there where the top part of the retainer of the upper handguard would be. Make sure everything is nice and aligned, and then proceed to install these in whatever pattern you choose. I did an X pattern. This is a ZPAP M70 UF, the underfolder. So it's going to be very, very front heavy, which is silly, but it is what it is. I think if I were to do this again, I would definitely do the Texas weapon systems. I don't like the look as much. I do like this goofy look, but I would like it better if it went all the way up. But hey, you do you, whatever, you know, you choose. He's going super easy, and again, you want to make sure that this is aligned. So this will go together as such. Very simple. I mean, the real time it took to do this, like even with the Loctite, after test fitting everything, is less than 5 minutes if you got it in a vise where it's nice and balanced. And again, you're going to want to not, you know, hoss the shit out of these, but, you know, put a decent bit of torque on it just so it stays put. What about doing this on camera? Just makes everything so much worse. Or not so much worse, but so much easier to forget critical steps like reinstalling your gas tube. And boom, just like that, it all goes together. So that was the installation of a M70 Extended M-LOK handguard. Hopefully you were mildly entertained and learned how to do this and laugh at this long monstrosity. Questions, comments, concerns, bitches, gripes, moans, complaints, leave them in the comments. Until next time, stay safe, and yeah, stay safe.